guys, today I'm going to be talking about Saturn in Gemini. So what happens when the planet that's about restrictions and delays is in the airy communicative sign of Gemini. So keep watching for the rest of the video. Before I get started, I wanted to let you guys know that I do natal chart readings. So I look at your birth chart, I look at the different houses, planets and aspects, and I discover what kind of challenges are possibly holding you back in life, and I give you a practical action plan that you can use to overcome these challenges and move forward in your life. I also do relationship compatibility readings, which are called Synastry chart readings. So if you're trying to get into a relationship, or if you're already in one, and if you just want to know what it's going to be like, what the flavor of the relationship is going to be like, you can contact me for a relationship compatibility reading as well. And I do tarot card readings, so you can ask me a question about your career, your health, finances, relationships, basically any aspect of your life, and I'll do a tarot card reading for you as well. So if you want to contact me for a reading, you can drop me a message on my Facebook page, that's facebook.com/Venusianscorp, or you can also drop me an email at astroluck111@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I posted the links in the description box below, so be sure to contact me. So let's get started. So we're talking about Saturn in Gemini today. So first of all, what is Saturn? Saturn is the planet of restrictions. It's a planet of delays. The effects of Saturn are negated or reduced after the late 30s or when you're in your early 40s. That's when you start seeing a reduction in the effect of Saturn on your chart. When you've got Saturn in Gemini, Gemini is the planet, is the zodiac sign which has to do with communication. It's ruled by Mercury, which is about the mind, the intellect. Gemini is a very logical sign. It rules the third house of communication and to do with siblings. So, and also Gemini, the symbol is the twins. So there is a duality to Gemini, and plus Gemini is a mutable sign, so there is a lot of changeability associated with the sign of Gemini. When you've got Saturn in Gemini, Saturn is a very slow moving planet, and Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which is a very quick moving planet. So there is a bit of a paradox here, because when you've got Saturn in Gemini, you will want to communicate a lot, you will have a lot of things to say, but you will usually find that whenever you try to communicate about something, there will always be some obstacle in your way, or you will never be able to get your point across the way you want it, or you may feel that people misunderstand you. So this is usually what happens with Saturn and Gemini people. The reason is because Gemini rules the third house, which has to do with communication, right? And when you've got Saturn sitting here, Saturn sort of puts a lid on whichever place it's sitting. So it's kind of like the big boulder that's sitting on whichever place it's in your zodiac chart. So when you've got it in Gemini, it's going to put a lid on your communication. It's going to cramp your style, so to speak. So if you have a Saturn in Gemini, you identify with being bubbly, with being vivacious, with being lively. But because you've got Saturn sitting here, there is going to be a spoke in your wheel where you really can't get your point across. Or when you do try to get your point across, you find that people misunderstand you. They don't really get what you're saying, and they usually take it in the wrong ways. That's one of the drawbacks of having Saturn in Gemini. But the good thing about Saturn in Gemini is, see, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury has to do with the mind. So here Saturn is trying to tell you that until you learn to control your mind, your emotions, and unless you learn to structure your thoughts better, life will always throw challenges at you. So usually communication will be the biggest issue for you with your relationship, with your friends, with whoever you have in your life. Communication is going to be one of the things that you find the most challenging in your life. And Saturn here is here to teach you to learn how to understand your mind. Mercury is the mind, and Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So Saturn in Gemini is trying to tell you that you need to start to understand your emotions better and understand them in a more logical way, because especially because Gemini is an air sign, and all air signs are cerebral. They're more to do with their mind and thoughts. They're not so much intuition and feeling oriented. So Saturn in Gemini is telling you to learn to structure your thoughts better, to be able to articulate them better so that people understand you better, and so that they don't take things the wrong way when you try to communicate something. Gemini is ruled, the symbol of Gemini is the twins. So there, and plus Gemini is a mutable air sign. So there is a lot of changeability, this aspect with Gemini, where they change their opinions very often, they change their thoughts very often. So one week they may think a certain way about somebody or something, and the next week it's a completely different story. And it's really not their fault, because Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which is the mind. And when you've got a mutable sign sitting here, like Gemini, it is subject to a lot of change. Their thoughts are subject to a lot of change. It's not going to be consistent. So, and Saturn here is going to try to teach you that lesson, that you have to be consistent in what you're saying. So you have to mean what you say and say what you mean. Because Saturn and Gemini people often struggle with this. Like they may say something, but they may have a radically opposite view just a few days later about the same topic. So Saturn and Gemini is telling you to be consistent with your words, thoughts, and actions, so that once you start doing that, people will start taking you more seriously. Saturn and Gemini people do have trouble expressing themselves, because a lot of the times they don't know what they want. Gemini, like I said, it's the symbol is the twins. So there are two sides to Gemini always. So a lot of the times they keep swaying from one opinion to the other without really knowing what they want, and this can put them in a lot of setbacks in life, because if you don't know what you want, if you're not clear about what you want, you can't really go after that, right? Because you will keep changing your mind about it. So Saturn and Gemini is here to tell you that you have to be more focused, more consistent, and usually that is going to start setting in once you're in your late 30s or in your early 40s. After that, you're going to start seeing the positive effects. That's when you're going to start to communicate better, structure your thoughts better, understand yourself better. And also not be so dual. Gemini is a dual sign, so you will learn with time not to be so contradictory, in your approach and your thoughts. So that's a little bit about Saturn and Gemini, guys. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. You can click on the red subscribe button at the bottom of this video. You can also click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button, so that you get a notification every time I post a new video on my channel. So thanks a lot for watching, guys, and see you in my next video, which is going to be Saturn in Cancer. So stay tuned for that one.